On the podcast today, we have Declan. Not me, but another Declan who also talks a lot in Minneapolis around the same age as me. I'm absolutely shocked. God damn it, Andrew. How do we do it?
It's the coolest thing.
Coolest thing we've ever done. Honestly, feels like the coolest thing we've ever done. This is Declan Podcast. Declan, welcome to the show.
Boys, Declan specifically, how you doing, man? How are you? How the hell are you, Declan? Isn't it great to just talk to another one? Like you and I are just Andrew. I don't even know why Andrew's here. You know, like it's basically Declan squared plus an Andrew. Like, you know, it's fine. I'm looking forward to talking to Andrew. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, being with another Declan is an experience. I worked with one other Declan before, and
wow,
because I was the second one that got there, they called me D2. They just dubbed me D2. I was the second Declan. But I can say it was really effing weird going into work every day and people saying Declan and they weren't referring to me. I was there for a year and a half and it still never really clicked. Never really clicked.
We all knew, and especially me coming into this podcast, that I was going to be irrelevant at the beginning of this. We knew you two, the two Declans, Declan squared, were going to have their bonding moment. And I know I'm irrelevant, and I'm happy for you two. I'm happy that you get to have this special moment that you don't rarely have. But I'll speak when needed. I'll stay in the back for them.
No, hey, Andrew, we're actually happy to have you on the podcast. Like,
yeah,
obviously this is Declan Podcast. And people will be like, oh, why even have an Andrew if this is a Declan podcast? Well, it's because this is Backpocket. It's obvious that Andrew is a guy who's going to be a facilitator. Probably he's good energy. He belongs. Every Declan needs an Andrew.
Yes.
I stole that from an Instagram quote I saw once. But regardless, I would say, dude, I don't even know where to start, but I think it was, first off, I don't know how, you just said you worked with another Declan, that's unheard of, honestly. I've only met one other Declan in person.
Oh, wow. So I have met other younger kids named Declan. Like I've been in line before and they keep saying Declan. And like you turn around after the fourth time, you have to be like, is his name Declan? Because my name's Declan. And it's a privilege to meet you, by the way. But the other one I worked with was older. He was like about 8-10 years older than I was. So I know what you mean. It is an experience when you got two Declans in a room. His wife kind of despises us when we're together because we literally we say Declan all the time when we're addressing one another, and she can get pretty annoyed by it.
And and it's funny.
Go ahead, Andrew. No, you go ahead.
No, dude, look, I want you to say it, dude. You can say it.
Well, I was going to say, I had the pleasure of getting to meet you, Declan, when you came to the Date Night podcast when Mary brought you. Right. And I didn't put two and two together right away. But a few years ago, my Declan, was talking about you via Twitter and how you guys were bantering back and forth. And especially how Declan led you in. I'm going to call you Cheeseman, Deck, because I can't do this. I'm already struggling. The Cheeseman over
no, totally fine.
Yeah, the Cheeseman over here was DMing you back and forth on Twitter, and he kept on saying there's this other Declan in the Twin Cities that's popping off in audio waves, and it's the coolest thing. I'm getting to know him. We should have him on the podcast. And I think things fell through or whatnot. We didn't end up doing it. But then meeting you in person, I was like putting it together in my head, like Zach Galifianakis in Hangover. I was like, oh shit, you're the guy. And it's funny how that, Twitter is a space where I really do think Declans thrive the most. There are hella Declan threads, and you guys band together, and you guys are a pact. It's quite unique.
Yeah, it is fun. I don't know I don't remember the instance where Declan and I met on the interwebs. I just saw, wait a minute, there's another kid in Minneapolis. He's hosting a podcast. His name's Declan. I gotta befriend this dude. Who the hell? I wasn't intimidated, but wait, there's another Declan on the turf of the podcasting game. I'm open to him, but I'm curious. Who is this cat? Who the heck is this guy? And I think we just exchanged some pleasantries, some nice DMs. Here and there. And I noticed you guys had a podcast. So I was like, well, this is like a sign, I'm not religious, but I was like, I was like, we got to make this freaking work here. We got to make this connection happen. So I'm happy to be here.
Right. Yeah, no, it's great. And it's funny because, Declan's ride and die together. It's
right.
it's pretty obvious when you meet, we're few and far between in terms of people older than like 2 years old. So when you meet another Declan who is, coherent and also not only coherent, but recording podcasts and, working kind of in the same space, it's like kind of an anomaly. But what's funny is like, I think you and I will trade tweets mainly because we refer to our name as like a power stance. Like,
Totally.
This is a Declan thing, like blah, blah. And I usually kind of sauce a tweet out there just knowing you'll have my back blindly. It's good to know that you've come through most times. It's been funny, honestly. It's just like been really funny to to have this occurrence. But in addition to that, like, how do you feel about our name trending in the future generation?
It's a great question because a lot of people have asked me about that too. Because I think Declan has been like in and out the last few years of the top 100 baby. It's usually like 98, 99. And like I think last year it was like 108. So it's trending in that top 100 male baby names. And at first I was a little pissed because like, well, Declans are very unique. Like, right, you can't be throwing a Declan on a Ben. Like you can't be just throwing around Declan willy-nilly. That being said, I love it. The way I coined it was the rise of the Declans are upon us. I remember that was what I said to a friend who asked me this question like a couple years ago. The rise of the Declans are upon us. But I'm going to flip something on you, Declan, because I noticed something in your social media handles. And I'm very curious your take on this. You are very open with the Decky moniker. Like, are you okay with your friends and everyone calling you Decky? Or is that a term of endearment?
That's a really good question, Declan. I would have to say it was given by myself. I noticed like people with a short name, like one syllable. No, one syllable. Like where it's just one instance, like Mikey Hot Takes or Joey Donuts or Joey Cold Cuts or Bobby Filet. Like there's all these different nicknames that can come away from this type of style. And I was like, I'm going to be Decky, whatever the hell I'm going to be. And I just think that is awesome. And like, no, the thing is it's a little gooey. I think I know what you're getting at here. It's like, it's a little endearing, but it's like when people are just running around calling you Decky all the time, it's not like they're sternly talking to you like, all right, Decky, like, listen up, buddy, you fucked up somewhere. It's more like, oh, Decky's on the ground, or like, oh, Decky's hurting in the bathroom, someone go help him out, or, it doesn't matter what it is, or like, it's more meant in like a cute or just like vulnerable sense.
Totally.
So I usually try and tag a nickname on it and then use that as kind of just like a fun branding thing. So like currently I'm Decky West Coast. I'm not on the West Coast, but I consider myself a member of the West Coast. I was formerly Decky Tucson. I've been formerly even Necklin, dude. I've had a lot of brand changes. So if any listeners out there is wanting to know how to, go through a brand transition, I'm here.
Yeah, Decky for me, it's like endearment. Like in my family, like my siblings call me it, my aunts, uncles, cousins, close family, friends, and maybe in some instances in intimacy, But in general, I don't like being called Decky. I don't like by casual. Like my friends do it to piss me off sometimes. They know it gets me going. Like I can't stand, like if a friend is just calling me Decky and they're throwing it out there, I'm like, whoa, hold on, check yourself, here, homeboy. You can't be just throwing out Decky left and right. But I kind of like how you go about it in that you add on this little like nickname to the Decky. So it's not just super childish. I think I might have to adopt it, or at least I'll take it into consideration the next time someone tries to drop a Decky on me.
Yeah, you could, and if you want to just go ahead and brand yourself like as the owner of, you can. I prefer geographic locations. I think that really covers you. You could be Decky Midwest now. I'd be willing to give you that. Honestly,
well, that was your
as the West Coast.
That was your thing, though, weren't you? Decky Midwest at one point.
Some would consider me as the Midwest owner of Decky, but I'm stating here that you
Okay.
this might be a passing of the torch moment for
Okay.
in this situation here. I'm willing to let you adopt the name Decky Midwest. It's all yours.
I
I'll be
appreciate
Decky West Coast. You cover the Midwest, and it's up to us to find
Yes.
the East Coast guy.
I love that. Let's find our Decky East Coast and we'll make it happen. It'll be the trifecta. I love that plan.
Decky Sunshine, Decky
World
Medkit,
domination.
all the Deckies in the world. We love this moment. This was needed, and I appreciate listening to it. But I'm trapping the puck, and I'm transitioning here. Declan, our guest today, I would love a quick background. I know we mentioned a few things while we were leading in the universe of Declan, but if you can give our listeners a quick background of who you are, that would be awesome.
Sure. Hello, I'm Declan. Declan Goff. I grew up in St. Paul. Went to college at St. Cloud State, go Huskies woo, and came back here. I've been living in the Twin Cities my whole life. I work in sports. I work in sports podcasting and sports radio. So I work for Score North, which is formerly 1500 ESPN and still is rated 1500 AM here in the Twin Cities. I've had a multitude of random other sports podcasting and sports reporting jobs since graduating from college. But right now, yeah, I've been at Score North for basically the last 4 years. There's a kind of a little bit of a messy timeline in there, but I'm the executive producer of Mackey and Judd and Purple Daily, which are two Minnesota sports shows. So Mackey and Judd is Phil Mackey and Judd Zulgad, who are two other media mongrels here in Minnesota. And that's more of like an all-encompassing everything Minnesota sports show. And then we have Purple Daily, which is a Minnesota Vikings-based show. Vikings content 7 days a week, Apple, Spotify, scorenorth.com, and on YouTube. And I'm the executive producer for that. And I also run our social media. I do some co-hosting here and there as well and uncovering the wild. And yeah, I think that's like a basis of who I am and what I like to do. And I'm a Declan, as you can see. Declans are very unique looking. It's very specific on what Declans are and who they are. So that's who I am.
That's awesome. I'm not going to ask a question regarding Declan's. I have more, but we will sprinkle them throughout the podcast. As a good media guy and a good podcaster, I'm aware of where we are at in this podcast. So Declan, I want to know, just being in media and being kind of coming up through the ranks now. I know you're a couple of years older than us, but still in your 20s nonetheless. So what's it been like kind of working for a company that was an AM radio station, with ESPN? They have listeners, don't get me wrong, like across the nation, but transitioning that to an online, online show, essentially internet show, where you guys are, now accruing tons of listeners from, YouTube to Spotify to Apple Podcasts, diving deep into podcasting, but like kind of just transitioning out of the old into the new. What's that been like being on the front lines of that?
It was a change, man, just because I worked at my campus radio station at St. Cloud for 4 years, and I did some other radio things here in the Twin Cities. I used to work for Go Radio as well. And I was a full-time producer at 1500 before we had this big change that happened a year ago where due to COVID, we'd lost about 80% of our staff due to budget cuts. And it was a pretty brutal day. But at the same time, it's been super fun over the last 6 to 8 months, really getting ingrained with being digitally focused. So, being on an AM radio dial in 2021, you can only do so much. And the radio signal we have at 1500 is huge, and it's great. And it reaches a ton of people. And we're lucky enough too, that we have ESPN radio as an affiliate, and we're the home of the United. And, there's other things that we can use it there, but you can only reach and target so many people on AM radio. Where digital, if you really want to build something unique, that's what we're trying to do at Score. We're being digitally focused on everything we want to do from an audio, visual, and social media concept. And instead of just putting all our eggs in a medium that I won't say is dead, but in a medium that is kind of on this ticking time bomb, if you will, like that is radio, AM and FM to a degree. Especially AM. Like I'm under the impression that like AM radio is probably going to go away at some point, God willing, if I live to like 60 or 70. My family history says otherwise. But if I get to there, I think like AM radio might go away at some point. So if you're being smart and you want to build something like you guys are, you build something essentially all from scratch with no radio dial megaphone, if you will, like it was everything digitally focused. And that's what we're trying to do too. We transitioned basically from a bunch of audio radio guys into visual dudes. Like everything we do is now on video. Everything we put up is on YouTube. We post highlight clips to social media. Like it's not just, hey, we're behind this AM radio curtain. No, like here we are in a digitally focused and ever changing world, and we're trying to take advantage of that.
Since this card was kind of forced into your industry, like your job, your company, that it wasn't like your choice of switching to digital per se. What was that like from guys like much older than you that were, true tried and true radio guys? How do they understand the podcast industry? You've been in it now for 4 years or so. Like what has that transition been like? And have you just had to constantly been explaining?
It's tough to explain, and it's definitely, I think, a bigger challenge for our sales and other sales teams to kind of understand when you go all focused on radio, because selling radio spots and then selling podcasting advertising are two completely different beasts. And that part's been a little bit of a challenge for sure. But even like from my own side, being a radio producer on the radio on a scheduled clock, 4 breaks an hour. How many breaks do we have here? What's the time spot? How much time is left in the last break? Like you're basically doing this mental gymnastics throughout a 2 to 3 hour show where everything is so calculated that it kind of goes by super quickly. When you're in podcasting, it's obviously a little bit more loosey-goosey. You can take your time with things. There aren't hard timeouts. There aren't things you have to hit. And you can also make your advertising a lot more fun. So that part's been awesome. Honestly, it's been really, really cool to make that transition. It's to the point where, like, I mean, when I got into college and I discovered radio, I thought that's always what I've wanted to do. I wanted to work in a live radio format. And after doing this now more in a podcast and digitally focused for the last year, I'm dead serious. I don't think I ever want to go back into traditional terrestrial radio. Like I don't want to go back into a clock that has 4 breaks in it and super hard timeouts, and you have to be very diligent of your clock. Where now it's just more loosey-goosey and you can have more freedom to be creative and make your takes. And I love it. I really, really do love it. And I think a lot of people too are just the way they've consumed audio and podcasting in the last 5 years, they've changed that. So that part's been fun on my end, but I do think trying to train sales guys and trying to train salespeople who have always been terrestrial radio focused to sell that to podcasting is definitely a challenge. And to be honest, I'm kind of glad I'm not on that side, because I can't imagine how tough that transition can be.
Yeah. And not to like toot the horn of podcasting and like pump the airs in the tire too much, but like I listen to Colin Cowherd all the time. And where he lacks is the conversation. Like you never feel like you're in the room with him. He's talking at you. He's going 1,000,000 miles an hour and he cuts off his points super fast, but he's to the point and like it's understood and you're in and you're out. And then I listen to, the Joe Rogans of the world, and I'm sitting in that room right next to him on like fully encompassed by his culture. It's just that different wavelength. And people always knock us for the fluff that we put in because these are 2, sometimes 3 hours long podcasts. But like the winning end on for my side, outside of like the listeners, like I get to actually sit down here for 2.5 hours, however long, with someone like yourself who I met in passing a few times and get to know you. And then other people get to sit and enjoy that experience. I really do think like doing this habitually over the last 4 years has grown like my just intimacy level from a standpoint of getting to know someone, diving deep and like understanding empathy and all this other jazz. Podcasting, that art is it's super cool. And I'm so grateful like that Declan and I had chosen to go down this route and back in 2017.
Yeah, man. I mean, kudos to you guys. Cause also I think the tough part is everyone wants to start a podcast, right? Everyone has an idea, especially in the last like year to 2 years, like everyone has an idea for a podcast. And I think, at least from like a sports side, because obviously like I do get DMs and I get other younger kids who are in college or kids that, want to start a podcast. And I think the best advice I usually tell them is like, number one, just be consistent. Like if you're going to do it, do it. If you say you're going to release an episode every Tuesday, make sure you're doing it every single Tuesday. And because sports, everyone is trying to be in on that piece of pie. I would say focus on one thing that you have a lot of passion about. And you can also make it your own thing. So, and if that means studying other people and like taking some other person's moniker or shtick and making it into your own a little bit, just own that. That's okay. I think so many people try so hard to just put out a podcast and turn on the microphones, and not to like downplay what you said, but like, we'll just turn it on, and if it goes 2 hours, it goes 2 hours. But like, I do think there is some sense of having a plan and having an orchestrated attack of what you want to accomplish. And then, yeah, being consistent with it. Cause sometimes you can just go, it gets really easy to fall out of it. Like once you get the excitement, right? It's kind of like that honeymoon phase. Like, oh, this is so exciting. I love doing all this. And then you realize like a couple months in, like, Jesus, this is a grind. This isn't a side hustle. This isn't my livelihood. Like, how am I going to keep doing this? So it's a tough spot to be in sometimes when you're trying to like be in that creativity mode. But I think that's kind of how I look at it too, man. It's a more fun space where you can just entertain yourselves and other people and your friends. And it's a good spot to be in.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because, when Andrew just said kind of struck a chord. It's like when we started this 4 years ago, the same narrative has been existing since then. Like, you said it yourself, Declan. You said, it's been everyone wants to start a podcast. Like we were hearing that same exact thing in 2017, and it's like now it's just scaled and doing the same thing now. And and consistency is so key. I mean, it's an art. And Andrew and I, through habitually doing this, it's like, dude, if we record a bum podcast, but like network with someone who's just totally badass, like Andrew and I will see that value. And that's how we look at the podcast. It's like, we look at this opportunity for however long we record for, and just make it a genuine connection. And we've been doing it for so long that like we built an audience from being consistent. And it's awesome. But what's it like learning? Because I know, podcasting and radio, there is a Venn diagram, there is crossover, right? So like for Mackie and Judd, I have two questions regarding that show specifically. One, what's it like working for a guy named Judd, and does it feel like you're working in the 1950s? And then the second question is like, what have you learned from a radio personality? Like, what have you taken from a radio personality and implemented into podcasting?
So first question on Judd. Judd is what we like to call our hashtag sports dad. So Judd is the older guy of our crew, right? Judd's 51, and he has sports sons and sports daughters. So Judd, and by the way, Judd in real life has no kids. Judd's been married for 25 years. He's got pups, no kids. So he likes to adopt all Minnesota sports fans as his sports kids, if you will. But yeah, you do have to earn it to a degree. He doesn't just like take anyone underneath his wing, if you will. But he's a good dude to work with. He's a grinder. He probably has a very big footprint on how I have shaped my own self. The dude has I try to pride myself on my work ethic, and then I met this dude named Judd Zolgad, and I realized like I am not even on the same effing planet as this guy. Like this dude just, if he wanted to, would grind 20 hours a day and sleep for only 4. Like that would be how he goes about it. He's a great guy to work with. For your second question, I think the thing that I've learned, and especially over the last year, being only a 3-man band, basically at Score North, and myself, Judd Zolgad, and Phil Mackey, it's getting us over. So Mackey and Judd was its own brand for 6-7 years, right? They got together in, I believe, 2014 on the radio dial, and they had their own show. It went from a 4-hour mid-morning show to a drive time show, and now it's a digitally focused podcast. And I think one of the biggest things that we tried to do once we, learned that it was just going to be us three and implementing it from what you do on radio to what you do on podcasting is getting people over. So just because like it's Mackie and Judd, and I always joke that it's your show. Like I say it condescendingly, like, oh, it's your guys' show, whatever you want to do. I'm just the producer. I just stand back and push the buttons and make sure you're uploaded and make sure you sound good. But at the same time, there's moments where they obviously rely on me to make a point, or they rely on me for a segment, and vice versa. Like I definitely couldn't be in their shoes. I definitely couldn't be driving the car, if you will. I kind of look at as a producer, and for radio or for podcasting, and I don't mean it pun intended, but like you're the brakes on a car. Like you're not the one driving the car. You're not the one who's making the car go. But anytime they use the brakes, it is up to you to make sure that car does not skid off the road and kill everyone. Like that you are the safety net for everyone there. So, and that still works in podcasting too. So I know, yeah, the producer hits the brakes per se, but at the same time, you are the security blanket for that whole engine that you're trying. You have a vehicle and you're driving somewhere. someone is driving the car, someone's hitting the accelerator, someone is at literally physically behind the wheel. But when you want to rely on your brakes, because it's the most important part of your car, you need to make sure you hit them correctly. And I think that's kind of how I look at it too on a digital side as well. Even though sometimes in live radio, you have your set breaks, but in podcasting too, there are times where we have to transition and we have to move on and we have to kind of make sure, even in dead other times, we're trying to come up with new segments, like just trying to get other things over. And I think that's kind of a big thing that, I never really heard that term before up until like a year ago. And it's also a term. I love professional wrestling. I've said ever since I was a kid, I'm all in on it. And that's a term they use in wrestling when they want to get what's called a baby face. They want to get a good guy into like the love of the crowd. Like they want him to be a good guy to the crowd. It's called getting them over. And I think that's something you can do in podcasting and radio too.
Interesting. Can you expand more on that, getting them over though? Like just specifically in the lens of radio and podcasting, like when a listener's listening, you're trying to get them over. Like when I think about that in the relation of like what you just said, is it more, and I'm reiterating this to you to see if I understand it or not, but just, correct me as I say it. But is it more like you're trying to say something where like the light bulb goes off on the listener's head? Like, oh, okay, I agree. Like the Minnesota Wild will win Game 7 against the Knights, like because of XYZ, or they're saying something relatable, like, oh, I do that too, type thing. Is that kind of what is that what it is? Or
a little bit. So when I mean get someone over, I mean you are if there's two hosts and there's a producer, it's giving that other person the voice or giving that other person appreciation to like solidify a take or solidify a point. So and yes, in theory, if you get your co-host or your producer over, it helps connect that point to a listener, right? It helps connect that. So that's where getting them over kind of fits in there. So yes, it's. And, sometimes the producer, and this exists all the time in terrestrial radio. Like there are producers who will not and don't like to turn on their microphones. They do want to be behind the scenes. They just want to be controlling, the buttons and making sure the car stays on the track. But then there's also moments where you're going to need the producer. You're going to need him to help you guys make your points. And I think that's where with Mackie and Judd and myself being literally the whole brand at Score, like it's just us three. We had a staff of 10. And it got trimmed down to 3. So it's just us 3. So we have to rely on each other and be in constant communication and also form the best show we can each day, 7 days a week, essentially. And we have to get each other over. So that's kind of that fun little metaphor there.
Yeah. And what I really appreciate about like you going in depth on that is the different styles and the different voices that each party brings to the table. All three of you are so important to the show. And I'm curious, Declan, on your end, like growing up in this industry, what was it like finding your voice? What was it like finding your role? Not specifically necessarily where you are now, but maybe like take me back to some early stages when you're just getting into journalism, just getting into putting out audio pieces. What were you doing to find your voice?
So, I grew up obviously a big sports fan. I used to read the sports box scores in the Pioneer Press every day as a little kid. And then I just knew pretty quickly in teenage years, and we had a TV broadcasting class in high school where we like did a news show every day during homeroom period. And I knew immediately I wanted to do broadcasting and probably sports. So I thought it would be TV. And so I went to St. Cloud State. That was the only school I applied to. They have a very good mass communication program. And then I have to like go off on a complete side tangent, but like I went to the informational TV meeting and I just got the worst vibe. Just like this, screw these people. Like, and it was the people that were in place. It wasn't necessarily the industry of TV. It was the people that were running this student television station at St. Cloud. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And I remember like kind of being in a panic. So I called my mom and I was like, Mom, like the TV station sucks. Like the whole reason I came to St. Cloud was to go to UTVS and do all this. And I don't know what to do. And she's like, well, there's gotta be other things there. There's gotta be a radio station. There's gotta be a newspaper. There's gotta be some other thing you can do. Like, yeah, you went up there to do it. So figure it out, kid. You gotta figure this out. So yeah, I went down to the radio station, and to be honest, bringing it full circle and finding your voice, I got ingrained in the radio station. I was doing music shows. I was doing news updates. I was doing sports play-by-play. I kind of did a lot of different things in sports to figuring out what is it I want to do. Like, do I want to do sports play-by-play? Do I want to call games? And I worked for the St. Paul Saints, and I called hockey games at St. Cloud State too. I did that for a long time. And even though it was a lot of fun, I realized, oh, this isn't what I want to do for a career. This definitely isn't it. And then I think just falling in love with the idea of, well, can I get behind a microphone and just like blabber about sports, right? I mean, I know that's like a dream of every sports fanatic, if you will. But I think trying out all these different things, from a musical side to a sports play-by-play side, I knew that, and even writing, because I did some writing too for Bring Me the News and Go MN when I came back to the Twin Cities. And although I was fine with that and it was a way to make money and it was a way to keep me in the industry, I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to find my real sports love, and that was sports radio. And the problem is those opportunities are obviously like extremely scarce and they're super hard to find. But I figured if my work ethic would dictate where I wanted to go, that eventually I'd be able to land where I am. And I think it was all the stops along the way trying to figure out what I wanted to do in this industry before eventually it just clicked, like, yeah, I want to be in sports radio and I want to be on a talk show. That's what I want to do. And I'm very fortunate enough to be here.
Real quick, you said you ran a music show for a bit, so I got to ask the question:
Mm-hmm.
What were the jams you were playing at the top of the hour? What were your hits? What were your big pieces?
So we were an alternative college station, and actually, so it's KVSC at St. Cloud. It's actually a very successful and a bigger, most student radio stations, have this like a cute little 5-mile transmitter. It doesn't go far off from campus. St. Cloud State's KVSC station has a 60-mile radius. So it goes out, and it's a humongous rate. There's commercial stations that don't have that reach. So we were super alternative focused. And so I think and I also liked playing a lot of hip hop. So one of the ones I remember, there was some nights back here, because I grew up in St. Paul, you could pick up the station at night very faintly. And I remember there was one summer night I was driving around after my freshman year here in the Twin Cities, and I picked up this Frank Ocean song. And at the time I had never heard of or even knew who is this? Is awesome. It was Super Rich Kids by Frank Ocean. And then I came home and I Googled who it was off the station. And then I just fell in love with Frank. And so a lot of my friends who listened to my show, so I hosted a late night show. I hosted 11 PM to 2 AM. It was called the Late Night Progressive Rock Show. And that was the show every weekday, Monday through Friday from 11 to 2. And so there is some programming, you got to stay on the recurrence and the things they're telling you to play. But anytime you had a little more flexibility, and especially from midnight to 2 AM, man, I'm sorry. If any former program director's listening and they're like, dude, why were you specifically playing Frank Ocean all the bleeping time between midnight and 2 AM? It's because I didn't want to hear Dinosaur Jr. for the bajillionth time. I wanted to hear some hip hop. And if I'm going to be here, I'm going to play that. So I would say a lot of Frank Ocean, a lot of local hip hop too. Atmosphere, Brother Ali, High Respects, a lot of other local hip hop, but that was kind of my jam at the show.
Dude, the idea and the fascination of you listening to the songs you want to listen to, and then just broadcasting that to the 60-mile radius, that's a cool concept if you think about what radio really is. It's I'm gonna play you what I want to listen to right now, and if you like it, then you like it, I love that concept. And very similar to that. I mean, Andrew asked a question about finding your voice. I want to know, within that voice or within what you've been tinkering around with, the last couple of years, and especially in these last 6 to 8 months with Score North, how has it been remaining unique in the sports broadcasting industry? Because, they're like you had alluded to earlier, thousands of people are trying to start sports podcasts talking about, either local sports or just what's going on in sports media. You got the Pardon My Takes and Barstool. You got K-Fan, who crushes every year. There's obviously juggernauts in the industry. How do you remain unique?
So one of the things we try to do is be, again, digitally focused and be focused in that avenue. So can we reach new people? Because AM radio, we were only reaching this amount and it wasn't the target demographic we were looking for. So can we find a new medium and a new place where we can basically put out that megaphone and start reaching those other people? In terms of sports, luckily I'll say I'll crutch a little bit to Mackie and Judd, but because they were established and because they had their own segment. So one of our benchmark segments is called Write That Down. So Write That Down is a segment where all three of us come up with predictions each week, every Wednesday, and we hold each other accountable. And if those predictions come true, it's like a batting average. And then at the end of the year, there's a winner. And we bring listeners literally on video on the screen with us to help make those takes. So they're a part of the show. Same thing with our vent line shows that we do. So we're doing those after WoW games, but that really started after Vikings games. I mean, like, can you imagine anytime, like, and yes, you can, like, anytime the Vikings lose in Vikings fashion, like, you just get a bunch of pissed off Vikings fans. We used to take audio calls over the radio for that, but now we bring them on the screen with us. And we're the only ones who are we're your home for Purple Daily and Minnesota Vikings stuff. But at the same time, come on the show. Like, are you pissed off that Kirk Cousins makes $90 million and he comes up with every excuse in the book and he's holding his team back because he makes so much money? Like, what do you hear? Like, let's hear from you. So our fan listenership is definitely a huge thing that we definitely rely on. And then also, just trying to be unique. So we don't sugarcoat things at Score. Like, we're not going to pump you with rainbows and butterflies and tell you everything's just fine with the Minnesota Twins, who are 10 games under 500. But hey, they won 4 games in a row, and here they come. Like, they're still 10 games under 500, and they're 9.5 games back, and it would have to take a miraculous run for them to possibly get back. But hey, cute little fun win streak. No, we're not going to sugarcoat that. We're going to tell you like it is. So I think, and a lot of people know us like that. A lot of people definitely call us more negative than K-Fan, or more negative than a lot of other Minnesota sports things. And, like, to be honest, we're fine with that. You know, if I grew up listening to K-Fan. Like, I grew up a K-Fan fan, if you will. I will never call myself a rube, but I will say that I grew up listening to K-Fan. It was my jam when I was a kid. But at the same time, we're kind of paving our own path. So, like, we're not trying to be K-Fan, and we're not trying to be better than K-Fan anything. We're doing our own thing at Score North. And I think that's where there's a misconception, because everyone always, oh, well, look at your ratings. Well, number one, we're not really on the radio anymore. And two, if you want to look at just Arbitron ratings, yeah, K-Fan crushes, and it took them years to do that. It took them exclusive brands, hosts, team rights, a lot of stuff went into them being juggernauts, and they deserve all the credit for that. But what we're doing at Score is our own thing. And I think that's what we've always been trying to alliterate to people who try to slam us for other local content crushers. It's just like, no, like that. And that's fine. Like, if you want to listen to that, you should go listen to that. But that's kind of not what we'd like to do at Score North.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like K-Fan has done an incredible job of getting the eyeballs to Minneapolis, to Minnesota, that had never been there before. And that's what's branched off and given us, like you and I, the opportunity and possibility of creating our own space in this industry that Declan said is so saturated, and there are so many voices out there. But, like, because K-Fan is out there, they have brought all of this audience here, and now we can, trickle in, trickle here, and then build our own little direction, because there are so many different ways to go about it.
Exactly. And, like, growing up listening to the Fan and hearing those names, like, there's a lot of good things, and it just felt natural. Right. And to their credit, yeah, the Power Trip's a super successful morning show that it's kind of its own thing at K-Fan. Like, they're sports, but the Power Trip is its own little beast there. And
with that's Carly Zucker, correct?
Yeah, she's on. I think she believes she's on that. Yes.
Okay.
So friend of the program,
friend of the show,
friend of the show, Ben Lieber, also friend of the show.
We like to say,
and
Tommy Olson, big friend of the show.
Tommy Olson, big time friend of the show as well.
Yes. I love using the term friend of the show. Like, I abuse it on Score all the time. So if one time a player or a coach or an executive comes on, like, I will berate, well, yeah, friend of the show, Bill Guerin came on the other day and he was chopping it up with us talking about Wild. So anytime we criticize him, well, like, he is a friend of the show, so let's calm down here. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, it's what we're doing at Score is our own thing. And I'm super proud and super, like, humbled by what we've been able to do and connecting with a new, younger audience that loves us and comes on to, bitch about Vikings games or comes on with us till 2 a.m. Like I was on last night talking about a fun Wild game. Like, that's what we're trying to do. We want to build our own thing and be Score North. We definitely don't want to be Barstool. We don't want to be K-Fan. We don't want to be anyone else. And that's what I recommend to other people, like, be your own brand, be the Back Pocket. You don't have to be someone else. You don't have to be Joe Rogan. You guys should be the Back Pocket. That's what you should do. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. And I think people get kind of caught up on that too, because they're like, well, who am I? And I think you alluded to this earlier about, like, hey, look, K-Fan does some awesome shit. Don't come at us if we're if we're using a same model as they are, but making it our own stuff. We look at what Barstool does all the time, and we are like, okay, if Barstool's doing something like this, well, let's do a Backpocket lens version of this, and I'm sure it'll work. Similar to like this promo video that I was talking to you off air, but with Bocella. It's like, dude, I got hooked into surf culture and Chad Goes Deep and Chad and JT and whatever, and all of a sudden, like, now I'm just loving everything about it. So I'm like, okay, let me go do something very similar to what they do, but like doing it our own lens, like. And I think it's all of it. One of our previous podcasts was Jason Coons, when he talked about best Christmas ever, but it applies to freaking life. And it's 90% intention, 10% mechanism. It's like you're 90% wanting, like 90% of the result of the action is exactly what you intended to do. The 10% is the mechanism. And then that within that mechanism is what I'm trying to explain here, which is like the Barstools and all these different people, these big heads in media are doing certain things, and you're able to see them because they have all the eyes on them, and you're able to physically see what's working. In fact, the things that you're only seeing most of the time are the things that are working based on how social media works.
Exactly. Yeah. And like really quickly, like, like when Barstool does, the pizza reviews with Portnoy, like, one bite, everyone knows the rules. Like, same thing with couple seltzers in, which is like something Phil and I came up with. It was just like, can I just crack a seltzer here and start bitching about sports? Like, what's going on here? Like, it's kind of the same type of thing, but it's its own unique thing. But it is definitely something that like, well, like, isn't that kind of like a pizza review? Like, but it works. It totally works.
I had an idea for you on that, which before I give you the idea, I would like to preface, if your sales team is confused about how to sell podcast advertising, like Andrew and I could definitely help understand the lens, because ever since starting like the Straight Candid and all these different podcasts, like we've been getting these inquiries about like of all these different media companies and what they kind of expect. And again, going back to that 90% intention, 10% mechanism, all the media companies work the same way.
Yep.
Bud Light, Miller Lite, blah, blah, blah. They all work the same. So if you ever need like help, just hop on a call and just like get a bit different lens. We're here for you.
I love it.
Sales team. We're pro Mackie and Judd.
Hell yeah.
But so my idea is take that Corona seltzer, crack a few and take that and just start accepting random seltzers to review on the podcast, and then incorporate that with your takes. How many goddamn seltzers are there now? Like, seltzers is an industry now. Seltzer's not just seltzer's not just one or the other and the big heads doing it. It's like you guys could have 30, 40, 50, 60 different types of seltzers being sent in from all over the place, and your deal there is for them to send you a case. Right. So that's hopefully less than $50 total. So something that you guys could use there if you want, but again, it goes back to that same concept.
Yeah, I mean, so a couple seltzers in started as kind of that. Like it took like 3 months before it was monetized, and Corona like bought in on it. But like we were hungry for advertising, we were looking for something new. So Phil and I just came up with, why don't you, like, you love seltzers, all you talk about is seltzers, like you should turn that into a bit. And it started as just a couple seltzers in, and same thing. I would have White Claw, I would have Truly, I would have Press, I would have all these different seltzers. And eventually, like, they pitched it to other people, and Corona bit, and we're like, we love this. And so they did it throughout the entire football season. They came back on for a few months in 2021, and they're going to come back on again for the Viking season again this fall. So like, they're back. But that's the entire concept of like, make it broad. And then if someone wants to make it their own thing and wants to pay to make it our own thing, we'll gladly do that. And our audience reach of it, I can't tell you how it's crazy. Like, I've never influenced something before. And so many, I kind of hate saying that.
Oh, but it feels right.
I kind of hate saying it because I sound honestly like such an effing douchebag when I say it. I'll be completely honest with you. I sound like such a douche when I say it. But at the same time, it's crazy because all these Vikings fans will be like tweeting at me or DMing me being like, just stopped at the local liquor store ready for the game this Sunday. And it's like, holy bleep, this works. This works. I'm a random dude sitting in the exact spot I'm talking to you right now, drinking a seltzer, bitching about sports. And then everyone's like, oh, I gotta get some Corona hard seltzers. Like, it's crazy how like impressionable and like how the influencing works. It's nuts, dude.
And dude, I'll stop you right there. It's no surprise because this is a Declan thing across the board. Like I ran into this myself on, again, more or less on accident, but also kind of just going through the idea of like having fun, like promoting something that was my idea or whatever. And I'm on the front page of a speed shade sunglasses company in Canada. And the reason we even know who these people are is because they have the most genius Instagram ad of all time. Like they sell these like DH Gate. Like remember when you used to buy like the fake Chinese jerseys?
I've seen, yeah. And I've seen your sunglasses.
And exactly, influence, yeah. Right. And so, anyways, they sell these like cheap sunglasses, but they say, hey, you know, free pair of sunglasses, and you get this hit with this ad.
Yeah.
And then you pay the shipping on it. And they can charge whatever shipping they want. And so they make a little bit of profit for like these speed shades, which are just like knockoff Pit Vipers, knockoff like speed shade Oakleys. And I don't want to downgrade the idea because like the concept is beautiful. And like working from like last year, like waiting the 3 months during COVID to get my first pair, to breaking it within the first week, to taping them up, to making sure they stayed alive through Bochella, to executing Bochella, to them like I reached out to them and they reach out like 6 months later, to then like me hopping on a call with like the founders of it, to like now they're sending us like 100 free pairs for Bochella this year.
Not
and
like 100, they are sending us 100 pairs.
100 pairs, and we literally got to like respond and just tell them what we wanted, and like they're a sponsor of Bochella this year. But like,
and you're the face of their website.
And I literally the me wearing those like shades last year was and we sent them all the content, you know, just because we were like, hey dude, like look at all these wacky people during the middle of a pandemic wearing your sunglasses on a boat. And all of a sudden, like now we're on the face of the fucking website. So
dude, that's awesome.
It's a crazy influence is fun is really what I'm saying. Fun. And influence is a Declan thing. It's always been a Declan thing, and it's totally no surprise.
Yeah, no. Once you're all in, and it's and you're using your Declan personality to sell something. Oh, like yeah, that baby's being sold 100%. Like yeah, I'm not. It shouldn't be surprising. Exactly. So yes, I feel you on the Declan connection with the influencing. Once you're bought in, you're all in. When's your birthday randomly, Declan? When's your birthday?
February 16th.
Okay, so I'm December 15th. Nice. So I was wondering if there was some birthday juju. I'm not a big zodiac guy, but I'm an Aquarium. I think I'm a Sagittarius, whatever the made up one that is.
I just found this out from my girlfriend. It's Sag Moon right now. So
is it a Sag
obviously Moon? Okay. Obviously you're firing on all cylinders. Have you looked at your zodiac?
I don't know. One time this chick gave me like some freaking moonstone thing and told me I should like look up the moon and how I'm feeling that day. And I kind of just thought like, well, that's kind of sounds like a crock of shit. But at the same time, if you want me to be in on it, I'll do it. But yeah.
Come on, Declan. I'm standing with Declan on this one. There's one moon. You just look up at it, and that is how you feel.
Yeah.
You look at it, and you understand, all right, this is my moon, and I'm okay with that.
Yes. Yeah. They're not looking at the quadrant. Is it God's thumb? Is it full? Is it waxing? Is it whatever? Like it's a GD moon. It's a moon. I don't have to get super enthralled with where it's at. But you know what? If that's your jam, that's your jam. Because I get obsessed over Kirk Cousins' contract. So if that's what you want to spend your energy on, you do you, pal. You do you, not me.
No, and don't get me wrong, Declan. I've never spent any energy on my astrology or zodiac symbols whatsoever. But the fact that I just found out it was Sag Moon yesterday and that you're a Sag guy,
right?
Like kind of, you know.
There's that Decky connection right there. There's that Declan connection, right?
Oh, astrology, you know, whoa, dude, are we feeling some connection right now? Hold on, dude. Hold on. And you're saying this isn't a real thing, and I'm saying it might be. That's it.
Okay. I respect
Kirk Cousins contract. Just think about that on your next Sag Moon.
Good call. I'll write that. Let me write that down. I'll write that down for you.
I want, if you could, I want you to pitch Mackie and Judd live on air, and like honestly, all you have to do is know what time of day they were born at. Ask them off air, random, just like, hey, when were you guys born? You get all their information. Literally, that's all it takes for understanding their astrology, I think is how you say it. So what you could do is to pitch them, like just research their stupid ass information and then like tie it back to astrology, and it would be you pitching dumb astrology stuff to them. And like
100%.
honestly, there's no better hot conversation right now than talking astrology.
Dude,
Especially if you're trying to pick up the female demographic.
that
Like
could
there's entire meme pages dedicated to astrology.
that could definitely be in play. We do a segment called, like, sometimes it's Declan explains, sometimes it's Judd explains. We sometimes do it when we have a slower week, and we could definitely, someone explains zodiac signs, someone explains astrology, someone explains this. That could definitely be in play. I can see it.
Yeah, and I can't help, but I know a couple people.
Okay, good to know. I'm gonna keep you close here, Decky. I'm gonna keep you close.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Real quick, just another a Declan question while we're here. Just wanted to know what's your favorite mispronunciation of your name?
Yes. Okay. So one time in 9th grade, my last name is Goff, so it's G, and I was typically, like the 9th or 10th person down a roll call.
Middle of the pack.
And you get the classic one, which is Declan. You get
Declan. Yep.
Declan or Declan. Like my best friend's dad to this day still calls me Declan, and I'm cool with it.
Right.
But the weirdest one I ever got, and it was so weird, I didn't even react until my friend said, "Dude, they just called your name. You didn't say anything." He thought it was Dacian.
Whoa, that's a new one.
And I think he maybe thought the L was an I, and it was a substitute teacher. But he said Dacian, and I wasn't paying attention. And granted, I wasn't the best student either. But I didn't react. And my friend was like, "Declan, they just called you." And I was like, and I looked back, I was like, "Did you say Dacian?" As a sassy little shithead 15-year-old.
Right.
But I was offended. Dacian, how did you? I'm used to Declan. I'm used to decline. I'm used to that. But how the hell did you stumble on Dacian?
And let me
my favorite one when Deck gets introduced to new people is Delkin. They for some reason someone puts the L before the C.
I think that's dyslexia. I think that or
full on dyslexia.
Or maybe drunk or super stoned trying. I don't understand how that happens. I don't understand how that would happen.
Dude, I think I had a Twitter thread, and you were part of this, where it was best name variations for what I've been called, and there's got to be at least 14 of them. But you brought up the substitute teacher in school. What an opportunity that was to get a new nickname.
Totally.
I mean, I was my favorite mispronunciation or just misunderstanding of Declan is I had a girlfriend one time. I was getting ready to meet her parents for the first time.
Oh God.
And I walk in the door, and her mom is like, "Oh, I didn't know you were a white guy."
Oh, I've gotten that.
You've gotten that? Yeah.
I've gotten that.
How cool is it to be for people to think you're black? How cool is that? I mean, everyone's like, "Oh, I thought you were black." I thought your name was Declan.
I do want to set the scene here too. Deck tried to use this in a stand-up bit.
Did it work?
Up on stage? No.
Did not work.
No.
Oh,
he got booed.
Oh,
and
pal.
there was one guy, a person of color in the back, that just goes, "Really, dude?" Throws his hands up, and Deck and just walks out of the room.
Oh my
So
God.
the fact that you brought this up again.
Oh my God,
dude!
Yeah, I've
awesome.
had that. I've had that. A lot of sync. When you go to sync, I went to a super urban high school. White people were the minority where I went to high school and middle school growing up. So I was used to not being around white people every day. So then when you go to St. Cloud, and even though it is a diverse place, you have a lot of people who didn't come from diverse backgrounds, and a lot of people said the same thing about me. They're like, "Oh, I didn't know you were a white guy." It's like, oh my God. I'm so thankful for my education and my parents and everyone who raised me to be a proper human being, because I don't know how the hell you came to that conclusion. So I feel you. I hear you.
Yeah, no, and what's funny that to expand on what Andrew's talking about is one day I got up on stage and they were like, "Oh yeah, and this is, they said my name wrong, and they said Declan," and I got up there and then I told the bit right away about "Oh yeah, people used to think I'm black or whatever," and then people just died laughing, and I was like, "Oh, that's the bit. Oh, obviously that is the funniest thing that's ever happened, because I'm a new comic and I don't make people laugh, and the first thing I said on stage that came from the heart is obviously the funniest thing that I've ever said." So then I go back home, I listen to the recording, I'm like, Declan, this is great, blah blah blah, I'm black, blah blah blah, and And then I take this bit and I expand obviously on the fact that I'm not black, and I go to the next stand up, same place, same time, and there's got to be at least 7 black dudes in the back this time. Different story. And I don't get introduced as Declan, but I'm like, might as well hit him home with the home run hitter that I normally use. And I go into the same exact bit essentially, and with my improvements from what I had written a couple days before. And literally every single one of them, like what Andrew was saying, was just like, "Oh, fuck this dude," and they literally all left and turned around and left. And I was like,
God.
"Wow, I actually less people are now in the show for everyone else because of my dumbass jokes."
Oh, buddy. I will say, as a fellow Declan, I feel, and maybe I would hope that other Declans had this, but self-awareness, self-awareness is a very important trait to have. And maybe I was wrong that all Declans have self-awareness. Maybe I was a little bit off on it. But at the same time, that is a hilarious situation, an unfortunate situation, but pretty hilarious that happened to you.
Hey, we ride and die with that's more or less part of being a stand-up comic. More and also, yeah, I'm oblivious. I would say I'm on the other end of the spectrum of the self-awareness thing, positive and oblivious. So that's where I lie. I don't know.
What did you
love
say? What'd you say the other day when we were talking about someone, just being just their head was up their ass, and I was like, yeah, I mean, they're that way, but I'm emotional and serious. And then what you called yourself something? Blissful and oblivious. That's what it was. Blissful and oblivious.
Big heart.
I mean, that's kind of what I am.
We do have big hearts, man. We got big hearts. We care a lot. Sometimes we don't use our brain. What is it? Which one of the freaking Wizard of Oz characters has more heart than a brain? Is it the
lion?
I'm not even gonna pretend to know which one.
But
lion,
hold on.
sure.
I mean, it's
He's
the
wearing the
lion.
tiger
It's
shirt.
obviously the lion. But like, hold on, dude. We're not Leos, dude. I did our astrology again, and like, it's not Leo season, dude. So we can't talk about that legally.
I hear you. I feel you.
But Sag Moon, so we got to kind of throw it back in your court here, Declan. So I got to ask though. So we've been recording for however long, but I think what's really cool about like your voice, your persona, what you do is you're a relatable dude. Like you're not trying to sell something you're not, and I think you're tripling down on that. You're also finding, especially with Mackie and Judd and everything, you guys are finding your niche, and you guys are finding it in the new digital space. And I think that's just really cool. Like the fact that you guys are, you guys were honestly just kind of catapulted into a new media space because you absolutely had to. But now that you've squirmed to figure this stuff out in the last 8 months, like you guys are actually picking up steam. And I don't think, and again, this is just another opinion, but I don't think the K fans and the other people of the world where they weren't hurting, and maybe because they already had it figured out, but they weren't hurting. Like you guys are having to figure out the new stuff, right? You guys are hungry. So you guys are always chomping at the bit to find the next thing. But I think, again, goes back to just this relatable aspect to you. So part of this question that I have to ask is, what is your average quality? So being just like an average dude who has found himself on the Mackie and Judd show and Score North, like I want to know when just what's your average quality? What are you good at sometimes? What are you bad sometimes? Well, at the end of the day, like you're average, and it's usually something that you care about that you're trying to work on every day.
It's a good one. I think I am. Let's see here. What am I incredibly average at? Because I'm fucking amazing at everything I do. No, I'm kidding. I think my average quality would I'll borrow what I just said earlier, but like self-awareness. Like
Nice.
I think that's important to have. And sometimes, yeah, maybe you get a little too enthralled or a little too hyper focused on it and kind of can bite you in the ass sometimes. But having self-awareness of situations, and that applies not just like, doing a show and producing radio and producing sports and that kind of stuff, but having self-awareness to other situations that are kind of going on in life. I think that's really important to have. And it's something that I wish other people sometimes had, because like I have a pretty tough time dealing with people who are completely clueless. Like my below average quality is empathy to like stupidity. Like I don't do well when people say dumb things. Like I'm not going to be an asshole necessarily, but my body language will tell either get me away or get out of this conversation quick, Declan, or you're going to say something you regret. So I would say self-awareness in that average one, but yes, I will lack empathy towards dumb situations.
I do appreciate that though, because like that's something that needs to be worked on every day. Knowing that like you're actively understanding, okay, this is something that really can change someone's life. Like if I am self-aware right now, I can impact someone else to the tenfold, just by knowing how I feel. And then you can then put empathy into someone else. But that is an average quality that I think everyone at the end of the day really has. There's no one that's super good at self-awareness. So I really do appreciate that answer. And I got kind of a funny segue here that Mary may have led me in on. Okay. So are you a single guy?
Yes, I'm single. Yeah.
All right. You're single.
Let's say it's so disappointing. Being single rocks.
Being single rocks. However, you're looking at two guys that are in relationships that are also podcasters. So Declan, I would like to open the table for you, open the floor. As podcasters who have girlfriends, are you looking for advice? Is there something that we can help you out with?
Remember when I said self-awareness? Remember when I was talking about having a lack of empathy to like questions that I don't like the answer to, or the questions I don't want to hear. No, I'm not necessarily looking for advice. At the same time, look, I definitely, I'll put myself out here for a little bit. Like I got a big heart. I care a lot. And sometimes that has gotten me to paths that are not great and not good to be in. Because I care pretty deeply about when I like someone, I'm all in on it, and it can sometimes deteriorate a lot of things. And you can hear people tell you that, you could do a lot better in this situation if you just put this person aside. And at the same time, yeah, that's easy to say in theory, but I hate to get super fairy but the heart wants what it flipping wants, dude, and it can be hard to buck that trend. So hey, glad you guys are in committed relationships. I think that's awesome. Keep at it. And love is love, man. Good for you guys. Proud of you.
And another reason why I wanted to bring this up, because I heard that you have potentially a desire to have a late night podcast, something that is off color, that dives into something potentially relationship based, but it's not necessarily sports _. It has life base. Am I correct with that? Is that something that you're potentially trying to push towards?
So yeah, it was something I had thought about at the beginning of the year. When we, at the end of the year at SCORE, we were just kind of thinking all right, that shithole year was over. It's 2021 now. What other things can we start doing that maybe we haven't done before? And I kind of thought, and again, that goes back to my late night radio thing. I kind of thought about this off color, fun little late night talk show. I loved growing up. I loved late night talk. I loved David Letterman. I loved Craig Ferguson.
Craig Ferguson is by far the best one.
He's unreal, dude. I've seen him. I saw his stand up one time. It was one the hardest I have ever laughed in my entire life. And I always loved him because he would always rip up the cue cards and he would just have a conversation with someone, whether it was appropriate or inappropriate or not. He would just have a conversation. And yeah, I thought about having something similar. I think so. It got shelved a little bit just because, number one, of my commitment to it, kind of like what I told you guys about. If I'm going to start something, I want it to be right and I want to be consistent with it, and I don't want to get burnt out by it quickly. And then two, because at SCORE we are still Minnesota sports focused, I still needed some type of sports hook, to get people in. And I would say that's the bigger roadblock I have than committing to it. It's finding a Minnesota sports hook that gets, because at the end of it, our audience is sports fans. As much as there's probably a great niche amount of people who would love to hear me babble to some other person about non-sports things, for sure that exists. But at this end of the day, we need something sports hooky to make that happen. And to be honest with you guys, yeah, I'm still kind of searching for what that could be. I truly don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean, you can always pitch something there's not always that Fresno State Hawaii game on at 2 a.m. to gamble the over under, so you got to pivot to other content.
Andrew brings up a good point. I think you could definitely niche down. Like if the late night thing is really what you want to triple down on, and that's like your big selling point to the people. I mean, I would say first and foremost, like get female content, like not get female content, get female personality.
Yep.
With you on the show, and then like talk about something that's relevant and super booming in the sports industry, which Andrew just brought up, which is just like talk about sports betting. And so if you had a sports betting podcast / late night show talking about the bets for tomorrow and like treat it as this thing that no one listens to, but is like the secret like nook that if you're up late on a Friday night, then you got all the sneaky fucking lines from Declan and said girl for the next day. Like
right, you go off on like
on
like a tangent for a bit, and then it's like, oh shit, what were we just, oh, we wanted to, what are you thinking for the line on next week's Vikings Packers game?
Right. You focus the whole show, or not focus the whole show. The sports betting is the hook.
Yes.
But you have an hour to record, and you have 10 minutes to tell people what the hook is at the end. But you guys can talk about whatever through that first chunk of time. And again, has to be female personality with you.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying you marry the woman, but I'm just saying that could open the door to other females, because the entire point is to try and get your, and again, this is leading back to the advice that we asked the question for ourselves. It's like, dude, you got to be around the women to even get close to have a chance, So if like all dudes are listening to your sports podcast, no one's going to none of the chicks are going to know that Declan records a podcast. So you got to get around the chicks somehow. So you use a female personality to get involved. But regardless of that, I think this concept of like a sports gambling podcast that's late night and a little edgy with a female personality, I think that would hit.
Yeah. And it could be something that could totally be in play. Just trying to, figure out what can I do to make it hooky. Cause I mean, sick brag here. Like a lot of my friends are chicks. Mary's like my best friend, like
nice.
I got, like I love hanging out with chicks. Chicks rule.
Well, hold on. Declan's are chick guys. Declan's are typically, I would say, good with girls.
Yeah, they're good with chicks.
Most girls like Declan's. Let's throw that out there.
What? Hold on, Andrew. What's she clapping back on?
Mary is nodding, and she's in full agreement right now.
Okay.
Our producer Mary for the night.
Yeah, your associate producer back there. Yeah, man. Like I definitely, like, it's not like an awkward thing, and like it sucks. Like it sucks if like you're still like kind of in your 20s and it feel awkward around a chick. Like I feel for you if like that's weird, but it's
not Declan's.
Not Declan's. Declan's are great with women, man. They're great with women. They're 100%.
We do just fine.
Yeah. Sometimes we outkick our coverage, and it happens.
Honestly, let's call it what it is. Most Declan's outkick their coverage.
100%.
I haven't met a Declan that's underselling himself, because we got big hearts, we're vulnerable, we're authentic, and then and all of a sudden we got hot chicks.
I was at a bachelor party 2 weeks ago and it was one of my best friends from high school, and I don't know, we all were just swapping, stupid high school stories, and eventually he goes like, no one in this room has ever outkicked their coverage more with women than Declan, and it's not even close, and it makes no damn sense, and it keeps me up at night. Is exactly what he said. Like it boggles my mind. I was like, I mean, sick brag, I guess, I'll take it, I'll wear it, but Declan's are just good at it. I don't know, they're good.
Look, dude, nothing. And honestly, coming from poor Andrew. Poor Andrew.
I don't need the name. I don't need the name card.
Yeah. Andrew's not attaching himself to billions of people, because there's billions of people named Andrew. Just like there's unique Andrews, obviously. Yeah. Just like there's unique Declans. But guess what? What's not unique about Declans is they always outkick their coverage.
100%.
And honestly, from the people who outkick their coverage, such as the Declans, I would say it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, you guys were football players, right? Did you guys play football at UST?
Well, we didn't play, but we definitely.
Oh, we didn't play.
But Andrew played. No. Andrew
Come on, I got on the field.
Andrew
senior year, I worked my ass off.
Andrew was good at football. I never actually played college. I mean, I did like a couple downs, but for the majority, I did not play
Good for you.
College
Well, you know, when a punter is a punter, right? He comes out there, he's got one
Yes.
bleeping job. For God's sakes, put the ball in the air and where it needs to go. And sometimes the
You can
punter will
swear,
go
by
out.
the way. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, no, sometimes I do. I'm usually pretty good at it. But at the same time, when a punter does his job and he does it well, you're like, oh, that mofo outkicked his coverage. He did the one thing and then some that he was supposed to do. So I hear you. I feel you. I tried out for offensive line on the first day and I got cut. It was the weirdest thing. I'm totally lying. I never tried out for football. That would be a goddamn disaster if I ever played football. Be a disaster.
Well, that's why they have you as radio personality.
Exactly. I just bitch about the people that play football. It's great. It's a great gig. It's a great gig.
You got a lot of knowledge up there, Declan. A lot
Thank
of
you.
knowledge. You're rambling off. I'm not rambling. You're spouting off Twin stats, and I don't watch the Twins, and I was impressed. Gotta say.
Thank you.
Yeah, that does need to be said though. The way that you get to your point is flawless. I appreciate that. Like I'm sitting here as a podcaster who's been doing it for 4 years. I'm like, fuck, why can't I do it like that? And I'm like, I'm scrambling with my words every single time I open my mouth. But this is the part of the show where I absolutely am in my comfort zone.
Okay.
And Declan asked you the average quality question, and I'm asking you another back pocket core question. What do you hold in your back pocket when pressure becomes stress and anxiety is rising? You use this habit or attribute, or it could be an actual physical item to overcome these situations.
I will say, I'd say work ethic. Work ethic, and again, this works outside of your job. This works in relationships and in your own life and whatnot. But I would say work ethic because, all right, you're dealing with a stressful situation. Things aren't going your way. It's kind of shitty right now. And instead of getting super flustered about it, like, what are the steps we can do to at least inch you along to get you somewhat out of this GD situation, right? And I think that was always something that in my work, that was something that I tried to always do. It was like, I'm not going to be the best at this. I'm not going to strive to be, as PJ Fleck annoyingly says, elite at this. I'm going to work my ass off to try to at least let people know why I got here and how I got here. And I think that's probably the thing that I hold dear. And that's something that was installed from, I'm the youngest of 4. I got 3 older siblings, 2 sisters who are 12 and 10 years older than me. I was a oopsie. My brother was only 4 years older than me. We come from a big boisterous family and just 2 parents who installed that in a really loving and correct way where, you know, you guys can get upset at each other, but you're going to love each other, whether you like it or not. And I think that work ethic and that drive is definitely something that is usually in my back pocket, if you will.
I would, dude, that's actually crazy that you bring that up because like hard work and like this chill approach to organizing, prioritizing, and attacking things that need to get done is like totally in my back pocket as well. Like hard work is in all Declan's back pockets now that I know one other person that's named Declan.
Now it's universal.
Also has that. It's
Right.
It's totally universal. It's obvious.
It's intergalactic.
It's intergalactic. It goes beyond this earth. It's obvious. Now, another crazy thing too, because so I'm the oldest of 5, and you're the youngest of 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's just I thought that is kind of nuts. But it's cool to see like that the hard work and all that stuff come into play. I remember it and again, like hard work's hard work. You know, everyone's gonna have the same thing about it. Say a lot of the same things about it. It's like it needs to get done. Like you're not trying to be boisterous about it and post you know things about how hard you work. It's like no, it's just like hard work's hard work. And that's just really what it is. And I think I remember, and I'll use Andrew as an example because Andrew's also a very hard worker, which is why we've clicked for the last 4 years and we've grinded. Again, we mentioned Andrew got on the field his senior year and scored a goddamn touchdown in the playoffs, which is cool, one of the coolest moments of all time. He also got kicked out of a football game, which is even more cool.
I did have a targeting penalty. And
you have a targeting penalty, and he not only did he have a targeting penalty, he also got it rescinded by the NCAA after it was appealed.
Oh, hell yeah.
Coolest thing ever.
I had to appeal that. I was going to miss the first half of senior game. It was the last game of the season, last home game of the season. I was going to miss the first half. And I definitely lowered my head a little bit, but my eyes were up, and you could see that in film.
And it was a running back. Like it was a guy who was ready for contact. So
For
you
sure.
can't.
And as a safety, I met him 3 yards down the field. Like I was quick down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just needed that to be known. Set the scene.
And
Declan-
the NCAA is a bunch of fucking crooks too. So good for you to win in that appeal.
Totally. Yeah. We could record an entire podcast about
Yeah.
how crooky the
Yes.
the NCAA is. But Andrew's a hard worker. But one thing, Andrew's got this fucking whiteboard in his room, and it's got everything that he does written on it. And it's like the most overwhelming and anxious thing I've ever seen in my life. And Andrew texted me one day, and he was like, "Hey, dude, I'm kind of overwhelmed." And he like listed off like a paragraph's worth of all these different things that we got going on. And like when I read it, I was like, "Holy shit, we got a lot of things going on." But like, you can't look. If anyone were to look at that, then of course they'd be fucking overwhelmed. Like, Jesus Christ, that's a lot of shit that we got going on. Like, I don't want any of that, But again, what comes to this hard work and what Andrew gets done and what the Declans obviously get done because that's part of our blood.
Absolutely.
Is this organize and prioritize and just fucking get it done and this attacking mindset. And Andrew obviously knows it, and you, Declan, obviously know it. And I think that's just one thing that's like super cool to just kind of elaborate on. Is just like this idea of like, hey man, like we're hustling, like we're not getting paid ass tons of money and hanging out and just doing whatever. It's like, no, we're following our passion, we're finding our voice, we're getting things done. We're trying to push to pursue our greatest potential. And I think that's the coolest thing that we all share here. I just wanted to say I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, the hair standing up on my arms when you're saying that, because not only is that like an equivalent thing across the three of us, but we are also winning inside the industry. It's not becoming unnoticed. Like that is another thing that like just really hits home, especially like right now, and what you've mentioned already, Declan. Like we have put our fucking nose to the grindstone, and people are appreciating it, and people are coming and want to be a part of it. The fucking influence. I'm a douchebag. I don't care. I'm an influencer. Like that is cool. That is cool because it's not like I'm not here to influence and make you someone you're not. I'm here to influence and uplift and hopefully you hear what we're doing and you have a safe space. That is the coolest thing that I really appreciate about what we've shared in conversation tonight.
Yeah, man, it's definitely cool when you finally connect with your audience and your audience notices you. You're just like, holy crap, that's crazy. I was on a walk, was it like 2 or 3 weeks ago? I was on a walk. I live in the North Loop. I go on walks all the time around the river. And like, I usually have headphones in. I have like earbuds in, and I listen to music at ear deafening sound. Like my iPhone lets me know in 45 minutes, like you got to turn down your headphones. And I say, screw you, iPhone. Like I got bigger problems to worry about right now than my goddamn ears. And I got stopped the other day, and they're like, "Are you Declan?" And I was like, "Yes." And I kind of was getting a little nervous, like, "Oh shit, who is this? Like, who do I know here?" He was like, "Oh, I'm a big fan of Score North. I thought it was you. I've seen you walk around before. Like, good to meet you, man." And it was like, holy shit, that is absolutely wild. Like that. Like, thank you for like, first off, thank you so much, and appreciate you hanging or listening and interacting with us. But yeah, when you have that gratitude moment, and it's not a cocky moment, it humbles you. It totally humbles you. I don't think you should look at it as a cocky moment and abuse it. I think you should look at it as like, holy crap, what we're doing is pretty damn cool and people are noticing it. And I try to apply that, because even when you're in media and when you're doing this, there is definitely ego involved, and that's totally okay. It is totally okay to have an ego involved. You should have some type of ego. Otherwise you wouldn't have the fortitude to want to be able to do this every day. But at the same time, I think being humble is a really important trait to have.
Yeah, we still call it the idea of the humility engine. Like the ego is absolutely an engine, right? You're going to show up and want to talk because you want to talk, but there's also this idea of like you're going to get humbled, and you're going to recognize an opportunity for humility, and that's also going to keep you going and honestly that's going to maybe straighten you out and keep you going in the right direction. But also I got to say, Declans always get recognized. That's 100%. Another trait of being a Declan.
Damn.
Yeah, it's a thing. But dude, that's so cool, because I'm sure you'd say the same thing, but it's not a, oh wow, I got recognized, that's dope, or whatever. It's more like, okay, my hard work is kind of paying off in a certain degree. Like it's more of that feedback loop that you don't always get. Like you get the likes, you get the replies, you get the listens, and you see that every day, but you don't always get the guys stopping you in the streets, asking if you are the person who you are, like that's cool. And sometimes, when Score North goes to Mars and maybe even Neptune and maybe even out of this galaxy, there's probably going to get to a point where, if you can't go on a walk anymore. You can't even fucking do it because people are like, oh shit, dude, fucking Declan's walking around the river. And then like people are going to track you down and be like, dude, it's 3 p.m. Declan's probably walking around the river again because we know who he is and he's dope and I want to get a picture with him or something. And, like all of a sudden it's like you're trying to avoid that situation, right? So like recognizing like it's kind of cool to like have those unique, fruitful situations is amazing. It's super cool because we had something very similar happened to us, and I was talking to you off air about this Bochella promo video that Andrew and I shot, and Andrew and I have been trying to sell tickets for Bochella for the last 3 years, and Andrew and I we fucking pick a Saturday and we're like, okay, let's do it on this Saturday because it's hopefully going to be sunny. The boat that we're renting is going to be open that weekend. So like, let's go ahead and do it. And almost like all the time, like our best friends or different people are always just like, oh dude, can't go. Got a wedding that week. Oh, got a bachelorette party. Sorry, man. Like, non-negotiable. Can't miss that, and it's just like a gut punch. You can't dodge out on that. And like Andrew and I are like, oh dude, like our joke is actually like, oh really? Okay, well then just bring the wedding to Bochella. And I can confidently say this is the first year where we're actually bringing the wedding to Bochella.
You got like, a goddamn wedding coming to Bochella?
We have a goddamn wedding coming to Bochella. We made the sale like literally 3 hours ago, and it was a non-negotiable. Andrew and I talked it over. Like we went around the city of Stillwater and pitched Bochella. We printed out flyers and pitched Bochella to old people and filmed it from far away, like I had previously mentioned.
Yep.
And we stumble upon a wedding shoot, and it turns out this is a wedding that's happening a couple hours later. They're just doing shoots with everyone in their dresses and blah blah blah, the bridesmaids, the groomsmen, everyone,
the whole shebang. I don't know what
the whole shebang.
The whole 9 yards. Yep.
And Andrew's sitting there like it's in the video. It's perfect. He's like, dude, we've wanted to get a wedding on Bochella for years. Like we gotta get there. Like this is huge. This is massive. And then like zooming in and look like we're like fucking half a mile away, just like getting ready to fucking go pounce on these people. And long story short, we show up and one of the bridesmaids like, wait a second, you guys are the Backpocket guys. And we're like, yeah, like that's super cool that you guys recognize this. Like sick. Made the connection right away. Long story short, the newlywed, her husband, and a bunch of groomsmen are now coming to the to Bochella, which is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, that's badass, man. Congratulations.
It's a huge win. And it just goes to, and I'm just basically just sharing that story of like, it's there's when there's meaning behind the story of like when someone recognizes you for the hard work you put in. Like not everyone's trying to go out and promote some dumb Coachella themed boat party, right? But like Andrew and I think it's this big grandiose thing that we absolutely love to do every year. And now we're literally throwing 300 bodies on a boat this year. Like,
hell yeah,
that's twice that it was a year ago almost. And it's just, I think it's the coolest thing.
It's a hip hop and rip roaring time. And with that being said, I got to ask, I mean, we've had some really cool connection tonight. The two Declans I don't think have met in person. I think this really begs the question, Declan Goff, are you a Bochella candidate, or will you be coming?
What's the qualifications to be the candidate? As an applicant, I gotta ask.
I think be available for sure is definitely one pivotal thing. I think the other one, we're celebrating Mary's birthday on the boat. I think that's that's mandatory. I think that's mandatory at that point.
Kind of a big deal.
Here's where I'm at with this. I like the water. I have limitations on the water. I like boats, but I like boats in my own way. And I mean this. When I say this, I mean this with the deepest part of my heart with love for you guys. This is no bullshit here. That sounds like something I would not have fun at. I'll be completely honest. And if that's something you guys want, that'd be like, if I wanted to invite you guys to watch 2002 wrestling from front to back for 12 hours. Is that something you guys want to do on a Saturday?
Depends how stoned I am, but yeah.
Well, that can probably be in play, but at the same time, that is not something I would like to do. But I think it sounds like a blast, and you guys got an awesome crew going. And Mary's going to have a phenomenal birthday, so I love that. That's all I care about. If she's having a good birthday, that's cool with me. So I think Boatshell is.
Wait, so hold on. So which part? Where do you draw the line in the description
of Boatshell, of my decision not to go?
Yeah, where are you like when you're reading? You're like, okay, this is not me.
It's a boat of 300 people. 300 people on a goddamn boat. That sounds fucking terrible to me. I'm being completely honest. That's not something I want to do.
Idea. The entire concept is not good. Is what you're telling me?
To me, it doesn't sound like fun. But right. I'm not everyone who wants to go to that. Like, I'm sure there's a ton of people who love it and want to go. Me, my self-awareness knows that I would not have fun at that Boatshella. I almost said boat party.
Okay. No, that's
right.
That's
I'm going to be honest. I'm honest with you. I'm not going to spitball because there's nothing freaking worse than when someone's like, "Oh yeah, bro, that sounds like fun. I'll come out," and then it's the time of like, "Oh yeah, sorry, dude, I'm out." Like, no, I'm going to shoot you straight right now and say that I don't want to go to that.
No, that's why we always shoot straight. Dude.
Always shoot straight.
They've never not shot straight. Anyways,
so if I were to say out of it's 350 people on a boat, it's a party. It's called Boatshella. It's a Coachella themed boat party. There's bottomless food. The second floor. All my dogs eat, and not only do all my dogs eat, they dine in. It's a full-on buffet. That is an offered in every ticket. Other great perks. We got Embrace North sponsoring the event. And I don't know if you're truly embracing the North, but I think Boatshella would allow this. We have 2 full ice buckets that you can sign up for and, get some cold water dipping going while you're listening to Twin Sick, who's going to be having CO2 cannons, a huge LED screen playing EDM music with remixes. I think everything that I'm saying is right up your alley with what you led into about 350 people on a boat not being your thing, but the things that I talked about adding on to it. I mean,
for sure. So let me get this right. So EDM, unlimited food buffet, and sitting in ice.
Correct. Those are the 3 out of multitude of different things I could have mentioned, but those are the 3 I chose to share with
highlights.
Well, let me just tell you right now: strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out. That's a 3-pitch AB right there. I'm taking all the way, and I'm not looking for something I want there. Nope, can't do it. But I respect the hustle, because I can't imagine how difficult that would be to plan something like that and get all your buddies to go and get other people. There's people that you don't know that are going to be on that boat, right? There's going to be a good amount of people you probably don't know.
The majority, yeah.
So I think that's badass. But no, the selling points, I'm being honest with you, they don't work for me. No, that is not something that I would do.
That's fair.
Can you at least show up to Stillwater and hang out with us at Freight House?
Yeah, that could be in play. That could be in play.
There we go.
Yep.
Don't buy a ticket. Just be, the either pre-game or after party guy. I would say after party would make a lot of sense. You can show up and get some free food.
Right.
Hang out with us after and ask how it was.
I will It's kind of like my friends, they love board games and card games, and they're always like, get in on the game. And I'm like, I am so cool sitting here watching you guys play this game. I am cool just spectating with my beverage and my own piece while you guys go at it over a game of cribbage. I am cool not learning the game of cribbage, and I'm cool just hanging out and being around with my friends. So I'm cool with that. Yeah.
No, that's super cool, because if we were to dive into your astrology, I'm sure all of this would line up exactly, because it always works that way. So are you? Would you consider yourself an introvert?
Which one is the introvert? The ones that are more reserved? Is that I always get the extroverts and the introverts mixed up? No, I would say I would probably lean more towards an extrovert. I would think.
I would say so too.
Yeah.
But and it could be just because like you want to be on radio and you want to be talking and you're good at talking.
Yeah, and I will say there are a lot of introverts in radio, especially. Like there are some effing weirdos that work in radio that like it's a shtick for them. They turn those switch on, they turn the mic on, and when they turn that mic off, completely different person.
Really?
So that definitely exists. I would say in radio, there's probably more introverts than they are extroverts. It just you wouldn't guess that, right? Because they're mostly entertainers and they're mostly people that you go to be entertained. But at the same time, no, it's mostly a bunch of introverts. I think I would lean more towards being an extrovert. I think you're correct in that assessment.
Yeah.
But there's definitely things that too. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do my own Declan thing here for sure.
Right. Yeah. So maybe this is our first Declan difference. I've never met a different. Up to this point, we have been toe to toe. We have been head to head. We have been basically matching up. Yin and yang would imply your opposite, but maybe this is the yin and yang moment that we're experiencing. Is like, I think Bochella is the coolest thing ever, and I would want to show up and like party with 350 people on a boat. But like, I'm totally aware, being a Declan, obviously being self-aware, understanding that like, oh, wait a second, there's actually a lot of people who wouldn't want it. They actually see that as a terrifying moment, and that's good intel. Maybe we advertise, if you're terrified of this event, please forward on to someone else who wouldn't be terrified.
That's genius. Do that. I think that's hilarious.
I think we gotta target the introverts to just get to the extroverts.
Because there's an introvert in all those friends. There's definitely some extroverts in those introvert friends. 100%.
Everyone knows the extrovert that's trying to show up to an EDM ice bath, 350 person, 4-hour long boat party
where all my dogs eat.
Oh, my dog, and where there's food. Andrew definitely explained there's food. I love the pitch. Like, and I don't really put it through that lens often. Like this is what we actually are providing.
I was picturing, you arrive to Bochella and you're there, right? You're ready to go. You're in the thing. You sign, you scan your ticket, you walk into the first floor. It's like some weird leather chairs that no one understands why it's there, and a piano that gets played at late into the event. But you walk up to the second floor, and that's where all my dogs eat. Like, you're like, holy shit, there's so much food I can eat for 4 hours, and like I'll continuously eat, and there's so many options. Then you walk up to the next floor, and there's gonna be ice baths for people to get into.
You gotta get a
while they're wearing Coachella themed gear.
I respect the doubling down. I respect the doubling down, but man, no, that ain't working for me.
Well, it blows my mind that we're doing it. That's what I'm really getting at.
Like, I think it's awesome. I think it's badass you're doing it too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, what's funny about it is like, now explaining this to someone who may not be interested, it makes us sound like psychos.
Yeah, right. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's a psycho thing.
It's a psycho move to have ice baths on the third floor. Don't get me wrong. We literally had to go through engineering drawings to make sure that we could have this much weight on the third floor in one spot to make sure that people could compete and have ice baths. Like, we went the length for this. But like, it was so funny when the guy, like, we've been doing ice baths for well over a year now. Like, we love jumping in ice cold water, and we never really thought about the people who may not want to do that.
Me. Yeah, me.
I'm
your target demographic that you're talking about. I think that might want to do that.
Correct. At a party as well. Anyways, this guy's like, yeah, dude, like, I'd love to sponsor the event, or not. I shouldn't say this guy. It's our buddy Luis, who runs Embrace North. And he goes, dude, absolutely, no brainer. I'm sponsoring the event. Can I bring my coolers that I just bought on the boat? And then now it's like he comes up with this great idea of getting pre-sign-ups for jumping in the ice bath and competing for prizes. And we were like, that's the most genius idea we've ever heard in Bochella Corp. Like, we've actually never done anything close to that. And then Andrew also adds in this additive of like, we got Twin Sick, a good 9 feet away, playing off this insane stage that we paid. I mean, like, we've never even paid close to the amount of money for a stage. And all of a sudden we have an actual legitimate stage on the boat with like 1 billion screens and like all these different things. You're going to be right below that, like literally right below that, diving in the ice. What an experience. I'm signing up for Embrace North just to do that.
And I
just
might have
to
a
do that.
meatball sandwich in my hand while I'm doing it all.
I might.
Because you know why? Big dogs got to eat. That's exactly why.
Exactly.
Big dog's got to eat, dude. Fuck yeah, Declan. And I'll see you after at the after party, and we're gonna have a food truck outside.
Okay.
And
Do you have
you're
hot
gonna
tubs in that one, or is it just ice bath still? Like,
no, dude. Literally just food, and then you also just be able to hang out and drink
Okay.
at the freight house. So it's like super
Cool.
low key. So like that's your invitation, man. Because I want to offer you something that you would actually enjoy, because we want you there. You know.
Absolutely.
Right. And then we might get you a partnership with our good friends at Manpaw, another seltzer company.
Okay.
You know, we're in the
Like
works.
Apple?
We'll collaborate. We'll talk afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm going to
Love
come
it.
at you with our two final questions here, Declan.
Okay.
The first being the continuation of our podcast. This is how we move through growing in the Twin Cities, is by asking each guest, who do you challenge us to have on the show? Because I want to tap into your network, someone who you feel would have a good time just sitting chopping it up with Declan and I. So other Declan, who do you think we should go out and strive to get on the show? It could be a good friend. It could be someone you don't think is possible for us to get. The floor is yours.
I thought about this when you sent over the question, and for me, I think he would be a fun guest on. He also works in radio. His name is Jordan Alamont. You got name ring a bell at all?
Heard of the name? Yes.
So Jordan works at 93X now, but he used to be at Go 96.3 for a long time. He was at KWV back in the day. He's the same age as me. He like kind of fell into radio. I think he's a marketing major and just like stumbled into an internship at KWB when he was in college, and then got a sweet gig at Go Radio right afterwards, and now is at 93X. And the dude, I can tell that he would vibe with you guys totally. He's a super smart guy. He's super knowledgeable and culture, like just very, again, forward thinking and self-awareness. Like those are the traits I like to align myself with. And I'm being completely honest, I haven't seen Jordan in person in probably like almost 2 years. So he's a radio DJ. He also DJs weddings. He's a big time Ricky Rubio stan. He loves him some Ricky Rubio. We used to get in some big time arguments over Ricky Rubio when we worked together years ago. But I think he'd be a fun dude to have on. You guys would definitely vibe well together.
Challenge accepted. Love that. With you mentioning Go Now a couple times, did you ever cross paths with Giselle Ugardi?
A little bit, yeah. So she worked on the morning show. So we were the writing division. So shortly when I got hired in 2016 there, Go Radio purchased what was Bring Me the News, and they obtained it as its own little entity, and they branded it all under Go Radio's umbrella. And then long story, I was part of a layoff a year and a half later, and they cut bait on the website, and they sold it back to a couple of my other former coworkers. And now once again, it's Bring Me the News. You guys have probably seen Bring Me the News around on social media feeds for news stuff, local news in Minnesota. But Giselle, no, I didn't interact with her too much. I know of her.
Got it. No, I was just asking because that was our gateway into the Twin Cities. Okay. Everything that kind of Backpocket has been from pretty much Giselle Ugardi back in 2018 after we graduated school. She came on our show and then just connected us with so many people, and we capitalized on all of them. And she got me my first internship in media. I was just curious on if there was any.
No, yeah, I didn't know her too well. I mean, I know who she is for sure, and I think she knows who I am. Who couldn't ever forget this face?
Exactly.
But yeah, just a little bit of crossing paths, but not much.
Right. Well, and I would ask kind of a side question, maybe very similar to what Andrew was asking, but so we're a production company now. I don't know if you know, we've rebranded, but it's not even really a rebranding. We're just trying to expand. And so through this conversation, just transparently, I've seen something that I haven't seen before, which is the fact that radio, either AM or FM, is they're recognizing that they might be a ticking time bomb at some point, whether it's 5-10 years or 20-30 years. But the hustle and these people are realizing okay, I need to learn how to appeal to podcasting. And then as someone who's as two guys who have only known podcasting, I feel like we can provide a lot of value in that sense. So is there someone or some company that you would challenge us to like try and just like provide our services to? Because
have you guys heard of Pod MN?
yes,
Yes.
yeah, they
Yes.
followed us. Yeah.
So
They have their own app now. Yeah.
Yep, they're a Hubbard entity. So
Okay.
St. Thomas graduate.
Oh, is it? Okay, cool.
The OG Hubbard. OG.
Actually, oh yeah, yes, Stan,
The original
Big
Hubbard.
Yes, oh yeah, Stan Hubbard. Yes. I think he probably technically signs off on my checks. I probably should say only nice things. No, he's a great guy. So Pod MN is a Hubbard-owned property, and obviously Score is under Hubbard's umbrella as well. And what their idea is, I believe, they want to take all the Minnesota podcasts, whether it's through Hubbard or not, and just have it funneled to them, to like as a one-stop shop. If you're a Minnesotan, you have it through them. So I would actually maybe bet, even if like you had the app or whatever, like search it, you guys might just already come up. If you don't come up, maybe
we are on the Pod MN app. Actually,
you are. Okay, cool.
We've been on it for over a year.
Cool. I would say that would be a start. And then I'm trying to think of like
try think more in the lens of like transitioning radio personality who needs something to like get them going. Like someone who's like committed to like sharing their voice, but maybe just doesn't know how to brand themselves in 2021.
So are you looking for people that you want advice from radio people who are trying to turn digital, or vice versa? Just so I'm understanding correctly here.
Radio personalities who are trying to turn digital, we're the ones who's going to help them try to turn digital.
Yep.
So like Ben Lieber, just
yeah,
we know him. Good friends with that guy, and I'm not saying we produce his podcast or anything. He was already connected with iHeart, so he already had outsources.
Sure.
But that kind of guy where he's got his finger on the pulse. All of a sudden, now he's got a podcast. Like, and
Right.
that makes sense, right? Because it's Ben Lieber. Is there anyone else like that that could do something that we could help them scale?
So you're looking for radio people or personalities that could probably bring that back. I'm trying to think here. Like it's like Mackey. So I'm thinking out like Phil Mackey. So his technically job title, he's the head, I believe. I hope I don't butcher this. The head of digital strategy for all of Hubbard Radio. So he's in charge of like in all the markets. We have like 6 here in Minnesota, but we have markets in Seattle, West Palm, Cincinnati. We have like I think a half dozen or a dozen radio markets so across Hubbard Radio in the country. And his job is literally teaching terrestrial radio people, program directors, hosts, how to be more digitally focused, to what you're saying, kind of to get ahead of
Bingo.
the ticking time bomb. He would be, honestly, I know I recommended Jordan too. He'd be another guy that could be a fun guy to connect with the podcast too, and at least seek advice. And I'll throw out his email. I believe it's pmackey@hbi.com. If you shot him an email on that kind of stuff, he would definitely get back. It might be a day or it might take his time, but he'll get back to you for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's his entire job is literally teaching exactly what you guys are trying to look for.
All right.
Sweet.
There it is.
There we go.
There it is.
There it is. There it is. That's it. That's the one.
And that is called a successful work through. Good work through.
Good work through.
Way to go, Declans.
The Declans, they know how to work together.
Yes, they do.
What do we know? No, but honestly, the reason why we ask that question nowadays is like, Andrew and I, we've realized, through the last 4 years, it's like we, the business model we were taught, or the business model we have always been told is, grab the sponsors, and then eventually you'll be this rich podcaster. Look at Joe Rogan, look at blah, 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 look at D2D and all this stuff. And it's like, well, that's kind of a rat race in itself. And that's a replicable model that everyone does. But then we were like, well, there's also this other side of like just strictly like learning how to produce a podcast and like learning how to be in the space itself. And we're also realizing that there's this transition from like old school radio, this multi-billion-dollar industry, into a new industry that's slowly catching up and highly grossing. Like, don't get me wrong, Andrew and I have ultimate respect for radio. Like, it is the mecca. Like, and it has been the mecca for years. Like, I'm never gonna sit on a podcast and be like, yeah, radio is a piece of shit. Why would you ever listen to radio? Like, radio is what has communicated a lot of shit, man, for the last like a billion years. There's just a new way to do it, and it's called podcasting, and it's way more tailored to the normal like the person nowadays. And so like I understand there's talent, and I understand there's people who have a desire to get themselves into the space. And like, for someone who just believes in the podcast industry, I'm trying to help. And when I see what you guys are doing with Mackie and Judd and Score North, like, I just think that's cool because you guys fully committed to it when you had to scramble.
Yep.
You were like, okay, like AM is really a time ticking bomb, like a time,
Seriously.
like a ticking time bomb, and you had to scramble and fucking go, right? And you guys went to what you knew, and now it's working. So
Yep.
it's like, you guys are a great example of that. And Andrew and I, you know, we've been working on this podcast thing for 4 years, like solely podcasting, haven't focused on goddamn anything else besides like branding and podcasting, and trying to just basically put themselves at nuclear missiles into like this combination of a thing.
Yep.
And it's been it's sick to actually share the knowledge for once. And that's where I'm going, where it's like, it's not the sponsorship route. The sponsors will come if you can launch the missiles into this intergalactic thing that connect into the universe, right?
Yes.
And so we're like, okay, we know the mechanism of that. Like, let's try and share that with people and try and make money and try and make a living out of it. And so that's what we're trying to do, honestly. Like, we're trying to find the Mackies of the world. We're trying to find, like, again, we just signed Adam Thielen and the ETS
sick,
podcast. Dude. Like, and a great example of like our first effort is Straight Candid, like taking them from like girls who didn't even know they wanted to podcast to now they are trying to make this like their full-time gig. And it's like, it's and Andrew, hair standing up on his arms probably, but like it's this idea of like, dude, we're actually seeing impact and we're actually seeing growth. And like the fact that we took like a Straight Candid podcast, these girls, and like it, and I want to say it's us, but it's totally them. Like, we found the talent, it's them. We helped them. We were the mechanism. We were the 10% behind their 90%.
Yep.
And they were able to scale and now literally look at something that they started as like a side hustle as to something that could be their job one day. And so like, that's what we're trying to do. Like, that's honestly what we're trying to do. And obviously Andrew and I will always have this podcast. We'll always have this brand. We'll always have these types of conversations. But that's why we asked that question, dude. And we're so fucking passionate about it. We're so fired up about this idea of like actually making this into the next radio and making this into the next thing that like is impactful, man. And I'm just so stoked to be able to like talk to not only a guy with the same fucking name as me, but like the same passions, the same interests, the same enthusiasm behind what we do.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, I think it's badass what you do. And you have a very good mindset of create the content and then the money will come. Don't be too worried about the coin right now. Like that should not be something you're worried about. You should be more concerned with, are we making good content every day? Because if you get too sucked into a wormhole of the opposite of that, it just derails your mindset and it just becomes a pain in the ass. I mean, because look, like I'm always thinking about the next day in sports, like especially running social media. Like I know there's nothing scheduled on our social pages for tomorrow morning, and I like to have things scheduled out. So when I wake up, I don't have to fucking worry about
the Bryson Brooks Koepka meme. Like,
yes.
Come up with something in the morning. Like, it's
Bingo.
that simple. You know what I'm saying?
Bingo. So doing stuff like that, always trying to think ahead. But there are my grand point is there's times to unplug, and there's times you do got to like step the F away and just do something that is not your job. Because like, especially everything that's all encompassing my time, all the bleeping time, and especially right now with the Wild in the playoffs and playing every other day and them starting at game at 9:45 at night Central Time and having to deal with that. Like, it's been a GD grind these last few weeks, but at the same time, there's moments where it's like, I can't wait to like step away and for the most part, not think about Minnesota sports, because it still does obsess my thoughts.
Amen.
Dude, hey, there's always an aspect to just stepping away from the thing that you care about, though. I mean, we're not
100%.
going to go on air and be like, this Declan guy doesn't care about Minnesota sports. It's more like for your own well-being, like, please take the weekend and go like golf.
Go away.
And don't like.
But although we will be at Tom Reed's on Friday night potentially, because I feel like
in relation, but yeah,
love it.
But I'd like to ask you our final question, Declan. First off, as other Decky Cheeseman went in, thank you for coming on the show and sharing some knowledge, sharing who you are, how you became a little bit into the voice that you are today, and everything in between. I just appreciate the time on, just a random, what is today again? Thursday? On a random Thursday. Appreciate it, brother. One final question for you. What did you learn today from the moment that you woke up to when we're having this conversation?
It's a good one. Because I was racking my brain trying to figure out which one like I could pick and whatnot. Because every day in sports is different. You're kind of reactionary. You're kind of reacting off either last night's news or the morning's news. But something we did today, at least on Score, was we basically ripped the shit out of Glenn Taylor for being the most incompetent sports owner that the sports world has ever seen. And we held them accountable. And obviously, I don't know if you guys are aware, but now there might be not provision in the sale that is to Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lore. There's now apparently not provisions that prevent them from moving the team and whatnot. And Glenn Taylor has a history of just alienating people, and he alienated Kevin Garnett. He's just a bad sports owner. I think he's an extremely successful businessman, but he's a bad sports owner. And we ripped him today on our show, and we put it up on our YouTube page, and we held him accountable. And all I'll say is the Timberwolves still saw that, and someone got back to us, and they weren't pissed off about it, but they saw it. And we held someone accountable for being a buffoon. So the thing I learned today, and the thing maybe I can learn or tell to other people, is when people are acting dumb, hold them accountable. And I think that's something, and don't be afraid to especially in Minnesota sports, people get so afraid to not push buttons and, but it's so nice to be here. We're Minnesota sports. No, if you suck, tell them you suck. Don't sugarcoat it. Hold them accountable. And it applies to life too. If that person is treating you like dog bleep, then hold them accountable. So I think that's something I learned today. Accountability, hold people accountable.
Amen.
One thing I learned from just what you said there, and what I relate to with Rockies baseball management is, the power to the people.
Yeah.
Like the people can make the change. And I know that can apply to a billion things, right? Like what's going on in our nation and all boiling it all the way down into something different and very simple to a sports thing. And the fact that you can organize a voice and be so loud that someone from the internal organization has to respond and address to what you're saying, that has the same type of power as being recognized on the river.
Totally.
And I just think that's a good validation to know that you guys are doing something special. You guys are doing something right. And you guys are doing something that means something, man. And it has impact. And I just want to say I don't care what impact you make, but I'm just glad that we share the ability to make impact. And we could talk for days, months, years, and trade tweets for decades and tell our kids about how we have the same fucking name and had this conversation or whatever. But what it comes down to is just we're motivated and we're working hard to make an impact. I appreciate your time today, man. That was sick, Declan.
Declan, thank you, man. Great to actually see your face in person. I know you were in sound last week, didn't see you, but felt like we finally meet after just DMs and tweets. Feels like a catfishing moment, right? You're real.
Really
you're
does.
Not, you're not catfishing me here. So it's good to know you actually exist. And yes, man, I echo the same thing. It was Andrew, you too, by the way. Andrew, I enjoyed talking with you too.
Andrew as well. Andrew had some good points.
Yeah. And none for Gretchen and Wieners. Yeah, that's where Andrew's at right now.
Andrew had a failed pitch on Bocella late in the podcast. Had some good moments in the beginning.
Has anyone ever shit on Bocella as much as I did in selling it? Oh, really?
Dude.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we threw Bocella in the middle of the fucking pandemic last year. Everyone shit on Bocella.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I'll send you some clips if you want.
Okay.
I got some people who
I'm just glad I wasn't the only
words.
one.
We had some
We
had some universities coming after us.
Woof.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, but hey, let's another time. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah. No, we don't need to talk about it. Our own alumni. We're alumni of an establishment that came after us, but nonetheless.
Declan, thank you so much.
Thanks, boys. Had a blast. Thank you.
That's a wrap.